Hi, so this Wimshurt generator, it kind of works a bit like this. Let's say we have a metal plate and we give that metal plate a negative charge. Now electrical charges are like magnets. Like charges will repel each other and opposite charges will attract. So we have a plate with a negative charge and we have a plate with no charge. And if we bring those together, what will happen is the negative charge on this plate will push all of the electrons on this plate to somewhere. Now, if they don't have somewhere to go, they'll just go to the back of the plate. And when I remove the negative plate, they'll rush back in place, and so there's an overall zero change. But if I give these somewhere to go, like I ground this, for example, I bring this closer, those electrons will go to ground. If I then remove that ground and move that away, isolating this plate will then be positive. Now that property where we force the electrons away and then we break the ground contact, it's induction. When we do that many, many times, you can build up a charge on that, and that's exactly what these do. Let's say that this one here has a negative charge. Now there's an overall charge imbalance. It's just nature, it's the way it is. There's always a charge imbalance. If this one's negative and it approaches this back plate, it will force this one to be positive by pushing the electrons out of the plate. Now it'll only do that if they've got somewhere to go, and we need to give them somewhere to go. And what we do with that is make a little joint between this one and the one on its opposite, so that when they get pushed away and the thing continues to move and moves out, that joint is broken, and so that remains negative because all the electrons, it goes positive and stays positive because all the electrons have been pushed onto the opposite one, which become negative. Now obviously this is going around in a circle, so that being stronger negative makes that stronger positive, and so on and so on and so on. And the charge builds up. Now we need to collect that charge and put that charge into here. So the two things we're missing are the connections between these, which are called the neutralizing bushes, and then something to collect those charges there. Now there's something to collect those charges there, very simple, it's just 2 point contacts that don't actually touch because it's a high voltage, that will take off that extra energy and store it in the capacitor. The neutralizer brushes are just literally 2 brushes that go from contact here to contact there. Now in order to make those brushes, we need to make a couple of arms. So let's have a look at the bits we need. So the first thing you'll notice is there's a gap here between the upright and the drive boss. That's where the neutralizer arm is going to fit. So we need to measure from that point to that point on the disc. So we need that distance. We come out straight and we need that distance. So we need to measure those 2 distances. So to make the neutralizer brush, you need 2 bits of brass the same length, and that's the sum total of those 2 distances we measured. So measure them, add them together, cut yourself a length of brass. This is 6mm brass. Then we need a couple of end pieces like this. And remember, we got those from this thing, a bit of terminal block. Just cut them out and you get some nice end pieces. And then we need 2 lugs. These are 6mm lugs with a 13mm diameter in a hole. You just buy them from the electrical factors. We used them before on the capacitors. The way this works is that they get soldered in there. They get soldered onto the ends, and then we put those 2 together and fasten them together and we get one brush. Before we do that, we need to put a bend in the bar, because remember it comes out then at 90 degrees. Now with this brass, if you just try to bend it, you'll break it. So what you need to do is heat it first, and you bend them like this. and you'll end up with two bits like that with a nice L bend in them. And here it is where I've soldered those two lugs together, inserted one end and soldered on the other. So to finish this, what I need to do is solder that bit on and then solder another one of these on, and that will be that arm finished. So when we've done, put the screws back in, because that's going to actually hold the brush material, and we need two of those, so I need another one of those to make. Now clearly the axle goes through that central point. That central point actually is, as I say, 13 millimeters. I got this from the printer. It's the same printer where I got the axle rod. The centre hole is 8 millimeters. The outer was 15 millimeters. I turned it down so that it fits like that, because this must be insulated from the central bar. Now I used that lump of plastic, but I also found a lump of rubber, and I could have used that, which I thought was very cool. But you could also just wrap it with tape or make a plastic or resin cast, but you need that little plug. That little plug goes onto the axle and gets attached there and insulates the neutralizer bar, but allows us to move the bar, which is what we're going to need to do. Okay, so I need to make another one of those. So there are the neutralizer brushes in place. Actually, they're the arms, the brush bit's missing. And here we've got the current collector. Now let me show you how that current collector's made. So here it is. Now all it is a bit of brass bar bent flat and then bent into that S shape. Then I drilled two small holes and soldered some drawing pins on, and then this little C-clamp I made. So to make that you need a bit of brass tube, two drawing pins, and this thing. This thing actually I got from one of these. You find these lying around very often when they're broken, and when they're broken they're still full of useful parts. In this section here is where the wire went in and it was clamped down. When you break that open, you'll remove one exactly like that. There are two actually in each one of those. All I did was saw off this little lug and then saw here and here to make my C-clamp. And then when I'd made my C-clamp, I sweated it onto the flattened brass tube. Okay, so the last thing to do is to make the brushes. Now there's a whole load of materials that you can use to make the brushes. So you could use conductive plastic, you could use wire if you wanted to, as long as it's very fine. What I'm going to use is this stuff here. This is carbon fibre. Now I have a roll of something that's called carbon fibre tow, which is straight linear fibres all together. I'm going to use that. But you can get carbon fibre obviously in a woven form, and if you have that you'll need to unravel a bit so that you effectively get tow. Now we want some kind of a bulk of material. I've cut 7 centimetres of my tow, and if I fold it over it'll make me a sort of brush shape. Now carbon fibre often comes covered in a resin, otherwise the whole thing just falls apart. So this is in fact resin coated, but it makes it easier to form. So I fold it over lengthways and then in half like that, and all I have to do to secure that is make a loop in a bit of cotton. So we've got a slip knot and tie that down with a slip knot. We don't want to go too far with it because we do want it to have contact when we get it into the actual brush holder. So pull it tight, whip it round a couple of times and then re-knot it so that you've got it nice and firm. Now you'll notice it's still holding together, and so it's not a particularly good brush, and that's because of the resin. But all we have to do is hold that in a flame to get rid of the resin, and you'll get a very nice soft brush out of it. And a candle flame will do well, a blowtorch will be fine, a lighter is fine. When you do that, take a pair of pliers, hold the knot that you just made, because that acts as a heat sink, flame that end and you'll get a nice soft brush. Now we put that in the brush holder and trim to size. Okay, so that's it set up and ready to go. Believe it or not, high voltage is one of those things I actually do worry about. Now the voltage actually isn't governed by these things, the size of the capacitors. That really is just about the amount of energy stored. The voltage is governed by the distance apart of these two balls. Now these two balls are separated by air, and air has a pretty much fixed breakdown voltage. I forget where it is, but it's based on per centimetre. So let's say it's 1,000 volts a centimetre. It isn't, but let's say. If I set those a centimetre apart, that will arc at 1,000 volts, discharging the capacitors. If I set it 2 centimetres, it'll arc at 2,000 volts. So the voltage will go up depending how far apart those two balls are. Now I've got them relatively close, so they're only going to discharge around about, I don't know, 500-600 volts, something like that. But we should get the discharge from it at a relatively low voltage. Further apart, higher the voltage. Even so, it is a high voltage device, so I'm wearing gloves just to give myself a bit of protection. Now the sparks can be kind of hard to see actually, so I'm going to give you a close-up of those two balls so we can see if we can generate some sparks. Okay, let's give it a go. Okay, so we made this thing actually for a few reasons. I mean, one, I was asked to. Actually, I was asked to make a electrostatic motor, and of course for an electrostatic motor you need a high voltage electrostatic source, so I wanted to build that. The next thing I'm going to do, incidentally, is build a motor, but I'm going to run the motor off this machine. The other thing is, it's a nice thing in itself actually. It's a nice piece of kit. And of course it's predominantly made from scrap. I mean, it was scrap timber and recycled LCD screens. So a lot of it was actually just sourced from stuff I had lying around or stuff I found on the street. And I think I've done a nice job of turning it into a piece of scientific equipment. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the series and thank you very much for watching.